Good day, I'm the 21st Storyteller, and before I present you with part 2 of this Mogadishu playthrough, I would like to thank all of you for your incredible response to part 1 of this series. There have been so many likes, comments and support, all for a brand new channel, no less. So if you're new here, I really hope this episode earns a subscription from yourself as well. But, without further ado, let's return to Mogadishu. The exclusion zone was left reeling. After the infected swarmed through the streets, silence was heavy. Those who could think straight, the soldiers, spent the early morning dragging the corpses of the infected off the roads and pathways. The citizens simply went about their business, trying not to acknowledge it. But among all of us, there was one common thought swirling. Please, no more of them. But once the unease had subsided, the squads picked up their weapons once again and marauded back out onto the streets to scavenge for more food and tools. Hunger was a very cruel possibility and one looming over the camp. And hunger wouldn't wait for anybody, and it wouldn't wait for anything. Our citizens themselves, though, could also tackle the hunger threat from their end. With demolition finished, an entire city block had been levelled to the ground, and I quickly ordered the area to be tilled into farmland for our first foray into self-sufficiency. 3 fertile fields in which Earth could finally start to pay us back. You see, despite the rocky path of survival we'd trodden on recently, our fortunes were on the up as the moon rose high above Mogadishu yet again. This time glowing with promise, a full moon. After a terrifying night of gunfire, frayed nerves and panic, our citizens could be afforded a quiet and peaceful night to sleep to get some much needed respite with their head on a soft pillow. For our squads out in the field, they were granted a calm night, emptying houses of their supplies under a blanket of peace and quiet. With a healthy amount of caution, they continued to go house to house, filling their bags and vehicles with canned food to feed the zone and tools to maintain our new farms. But given our current situation, some might argue that this was a rather vain project, but after a bit of scouting around the zone, a large outbuilding by an abandoned house, more like a garden shed, seemed the perfect place to commission a weather station. I grant you, in a world of bad actors, rampant disease and death, the weather might seem like the least of our worries, but knowing Mother Nature's intentions in advance will help us better calculate that risk going forwards. And hell, if we ever do get the ability to broadcast TV like we did in the old days, our weather channel might just be that voice of freedom, the essence of civilization, and that final sense of normality that our citizens so desperately crave in the exclusion zone. Although I do say this, it's at that moment that a rather peculiar radio transmission reaches my airwaves.
There's nothing left. Get up, everyone. Roger. Sir, we found something interesting near the lair that we just cleared. A CCTV camera, still operational, solar powered. Could someone still be watching this place?
Say hello and wave.
Search done.
We could make new friends.
I have absolutely no idea who might still have the technology and the power source needed to operate such a security system, and on solar power, no less. But I'm willing to take the gamble on them being friendly, or at the very least not shooting us dead on sight like the raiders do. If anything, it could be a chance to learn something new and acquire the knowledge needed to make our zone even more comfortable. For me, that's definitely a chance worth taking, and if it ultimately boosts our citizens' morale, then all the better. But before we start getting ahead of ourselves and speaking of lofty notions such as solar power, the basics here still need some work. With the fields now operational, we need a source of meat to keep the citizens happy. Our choice of buildings, however, is limited. Small houses and two-storey apartment blocks, ill-suited for livestock and barns. But in a trade-off of necessity, I ordered the largest four-storey apartment to be converted into said barn. It seems rather absurd to me to tear out the walls of potential living space to herd animals into living rooms and bathrooms, but if our people starve, what good is living space when it's all said and done, and no one to live in it? And to cap that off, the two small apartments next door are ordered to become cookhouses. After all, it would be a much easier affair amalgamating several domestic kitchens into a large food operation. I could achieve this quite easily with apartments. It wasn't the ideal capacity, it wasn't exactly the volume I wanted for the zone, but any fresh food coming off the production line will be better than none. For the sake of citizen comfort, I make sure these dirty facilities would be reasonably spaced away from our living quarters, so as not to plague them with stench and smoke in their downtime. In a world like this, even the littlest of comforts and considerations would matter in maximising morale. Humanity, after all, can be a rather fickle mistress to contend with. And with that, our weather station was up and running, and one lucky citizen now had the job of looking to the heavens for our fortunes. One might argue this is one of the easiest jobs that we've made thus far. Aside from raking soil and smashing up buildings, you could consider yourself quite lucky. Even though the weather in this city rarely falls below 20 Celsius, knowing when the rain is coming allows our farmers to be better equipped, or allow them to take time off of the fields when the sky provides for them. That way, they can become builders, demolition workers, and researchers when they weren't needed on the soil, a nice extra layer of versatility when circumstances demanded it.
There's nothing left. We're on the move. On my way.
Night falls over Somalia again. It's not a full moon tonight, but our squads have no need to scavenge for additional sustenance. Our warehouse is piled high with crate after crate of canned food, of just about everything imaginable. On inspection, it's enough to sustain the zone for many days to come. So tonight, even our fighting units can be given a night to rest, an opportunity that they readily take, opting to remain at HQ to rest their weary heads. With the burden of the citizens' lives in their hands day and night, a little R&R would go a long way to keeping their well-being in top form. Without them, we'd all be lambs to the slaughter in this dangerous new world.
The work ain't gonna wait for us. Let's get to it.
Hello, hello. Rise and shine.
This is operator of infection-free zone. State your business.
Finally. I was beginning to wonder where you've gone. It's such a nice day outside. Got a good night's sleep. I think I'll go to that house by the end of the road today. It's time.
Sir, I think you've got me confused with someone else.
Uh-huh. Very funny. Very funny. You almost had me. You know, I really appreciate our little talks.
Sir, I don't know you.
But we talked yesterday, and the day before. I know your voice. Stop kidding around, Gary.
Really sorry, sir, but I'm not Gary.
But then who are you?
We have a zone set up here. I'm the chief comms operator. It's safe here. You should join us.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't been out of the house in months.
Where are you? What's the address? We're sending a squad to your location. You can trust us, sir. We'll help you.
All right. Okay. It will be nice to see you again. Thank you.
Waiting orders.
I was on the radio immediately to request my top squad go to the caller's location. Helping people like him is exactly why we built this radio tower in the first place. And with bated breath, I waited the receiver for my squad to report back in. I knew it wouldn't be too long before they managed to get in touch with the caller.
Boss, we found the guy, but he's a bit weird. Are you sure we want him? Our citizens might get a bit concerned.
Take him.
Somebody's coming.
Your life matters.
Somebody's coming. Reporting.
The caller had clearly been deeply affected by the fall of society, and hadn't had the safety net of friends or family, nor arguably an underground haven like we had during the downfall. Hell, maybe he'd lost all of them, but it would be unconscionable of me to leave him to his fate in these ruins. And in fact, he wouldn't be alone in his mental health, or Kafi Ma'adka Maxaxta in Somali. It's not exactly a new thing. According to Biomedical Central and Doctors Without Borders, up to 34% of Somalia's current population face mental health issues, and the country has one of the highest rates of mental health issues globally, with the top four being panic disorders, generalised anxiety, depressive disorders, and PTSD, possibly some that this man suffers from. Although, unfortunately, up to 80 or 90% of those affected do not have reliable access to quality care for such issues, presenting a huge challenge for Somali leadership. Fortunately for this gentleman, however, he will have safety and comfort within headquarters of the Somali Isolation Zone, and we welcome him with open arms, no matter if some of the citizens do wonder who he is referring to when he does indeed start asking around Gary, his so far unknown companion. With tens of men and women around him, no doubt he will be cared for, exactly what this zone was established to do. Though I admit, I don't think anyone has had the heart to tell him that nobody knows who this mysterious Gary is. On a darker note, however, getting him a warm bed and a cool drink might have to wait.
Grab your guns! The infected are swarming!
I speak for all of us when I say we hoped there wouldn't be another one. Unfortunately, we were all wrong. But as I did previously, the return to base command is issued to all squads immediately. Rifles would be loaded, cocked, and pointed in all directions again. And they wouldn't get into the zone without walking through a barrage of gunfire first. It would provide little comfort, but we are granted a stay of execution as the sun rises, just minutes before the swarm was due to reach the zone, forcing them indoors. Tensely held weapons are lowered, breaths that have been held are gently released. Precious time to prepare.
Just bring whatever you've got.
The chance to buy an extra gun or two? Perfect. Coupled with...
We've gained new technology.
And with that announcement, our reliable men and women in research had given us the knowledge we needed to build houses. Not shelters. Actual residential houses. And since we're surrounded by abandoned properties, it would prove no trouble getting them into real working order. No more mattresses on the floor, no more camping stoves. These would be actual apartments with their own locks, comfortable beds, real working kitchens, and comfort comparable to before the fall of humanity. 2 apartment blocks are straight away earmarked for housing, giving rise to living space for 28 citizens to live in real comfort. This would be our first step to thriving, not surviving.
Chief, the merchant has just come to the zone and wants to trade with us.
Let's trade then.
And this trader was generous enough to part with an AK-47 and a shotgun, tools and books for the price of 5 pistols. That's like rolling a double 6 on the dice. That will take the edge off tonight's swarm. Elsewhere, believe me, I'm more than happy to see the conversion of an apartment into a barn, despite its relative absurdity. But with it comes a brand new problem. More buildings to defend, and less people to defend it with. With only 20 fighting men with guns, making them reposition during an infected siege was effectively asking them to die. But I simply do not have the manpower to spare for more squads, nor enough infrastructure and facilities. It's a vulnerability I cannot address, but one that nags at me nonetheless.
The place is adapted.
And that's a problem exacerbated further with the completion of the cookhouse. While freshly cooked bread and meat can now roll out of it, that's 2 more buildings needing a set of guns to keep safe, and not enough soldiers to defend it. Our defences will need careful consideration. Even if I could sort this out, I still wouldn't have enough time. As the moon rises over Mogadishu again, I knew the swarm we sighted last night would not hesitate to continue their relentless march on our zone once again. Though we are somewhat surprised when just a single horde heads our way. Not to be taken lightly, of course. 19 infected could still kill half the population if left unchecked. But our shotgun team, with crossfire from the assault rifles, makes quick work of them from the windows, air filled with the sounds of buckshot, automatic gunfire, and the death rattles of the infected as they're blown apart by our combat team. The city briefly falls silent again. A few moments pass as the team force new 12 gauges into the feeding tubes. Magazines are quickly swapped out. Another group rushes down the street. Just 11 this time. Our shotgun team dispatches them with ease before they even manage to climb the reinforced facade of the warehouse. And no sooner had the corpses fallen to the concrete below, another group of 11 ambled in from the same direction. We confess ourselves confused, but it won't stop us taking the breaks afforded to us. Until it wasn't a break anymore.
We're running out of resources. Infected are pillaging a building.
We've spotted some people.
It wasn't clean, and the soldiers had more bodies to dispose of, but the swarm had shot themselves in the foot, trickling in bit by bit, making for an easy kill. Luckily for us, none of them had died on the fields, threatening our new crops with their tainted entrails. It made for a grisly job, but a necessary one. But it was almost like they were listening to us. It was as if the infected knew what we'd done and vowed revenge. It was a radio call I was more than glad to disconnect from. Were they smarter than we originally thought?
A group of people is approaching. Sir, we bumped into a wandering group. They've got some wounds from the infected. That wasn't enough. They seem odd and aggressive.
Send them away.
Going there. Chief, we've stumbled upon some people. They have some resources.
Ask them to join us.
We needed additional manpower to defend the zone, but even I draw the line at inviting those who could possibly be infected to live with us. The mad virus wiped out humanity, and it could very well wipe us out too if we took the risk. We might be set up to help, but we can't help if we're all dead. But the second group were reasonable, albeit cautious. people I was happy to work with and welcome them in. And what a time it was when they arrived.
Building adapted.
Our first secure, high-quality house is formed, and the second is immediately ordered. A comfortable bed and security is the perfect way to welcome these new guests, with a huge boost to citizen morale. Actually, land ownership in Somalia is a very complicated issue, with the state holding title to all land, also known as formal tenure, granting mechanisms that can govern the transfer of land ownership. But with what the state views as social assets, such as water and farmland, they may hold a customary tenure. But this overlaps a lot with Sharia law, which can cause many loopholes and conflicts, as well as issues over land grabbing, forced eviction, and unequal access to land registration rights. The titles for property can be granted disproportionately to very well connected newcomers with, for example, political access or large amounts of wealth, rather than long-term Somalian residents. But in this new world, everyone here will sleep with a secure door, a lock, and a strong roof over their heads. No bribes, no titles, and no strings attached.
Hi there, operator. How you doing, mate? I know how it sounds, and we did you some wrong, but I've got nobody else to call. And shit hit the fan.
What in the hell is happening there?
Well, to put it lightly, we're surrounded at. These infected jack shits are already inside, and we're stuck in the last room. We won't hold out for long, but none of my boys can come help, so...
Why should we help you?
We'll do anything, really! Whatever you want, your call.
Surrender your weapons and join us.
But how are we supposed to live then?
You're in no position to refuse.
All right, all right! We'll do anything, just get us out of here.
We're coming to get you out.
Thanks, mate. Just make haste, goddammit.
Roger. Receiving.
Trust me, in the back of my mind, it took every fibre of my being not to say no. They kidnapped my squad, forced me to have to kill 4 of theirs, tried to extort us. But our zone was built to help people, and being wronged, it didn't make that duty any less real. Letting my personal feelings get in the way wouldn't cut it. And truth be told, I felt sorry for them, like a group who didn't understand just how dangerous it could be out there, and got in way over their heads. I didn't like the idea of doing it, I will admit, but I ordered 2 squads to rush to the reported location as fast as possible.
Let's do it. Receiving. There are some infected around.
And those raiders weren't kidding. The entire street is swarming with infected, and they're in a death grip. I take a breath, and I order my teams to move in.
There. Reporting. On my way. We need backup! Danger close! This house is infected! One inside! Take him down! Infected inside! Take him down!
Well, operator, you got us out after all. I can't believe you did that like you did. Oh, I should have given you my respect much earlier. You're the bigger man, no doubt. What will you do with us now, though, huh?
You'll fight for us.
That's better than dying, I guess. Thanks. We'll try not to screw things up.
Welcome
We're on
to
the
the
move.
zone.
Operator, going there. Roger. Receiving. Going there. Roger.
Now, despite the state of the world, there's still one thing that I admire, and that's integrity. This man took our squad hostage for nothing more than canned goods. Yet here he was, not only admitting that he wronged us, but he's willing to take responsibility and put right what he did wrong. Having told us he should have respected us a lot earlier, I graciously offered him and his surviving men a place in our zone. Despite our history, any additional hands and weapons would help us. It would help them. And after that daring and guns blazing rescue, I think they have the potential to become fiercely loyal to us. So as we were returning to base, I couldn't help but smile. Those who had been an emerging threat previously were now potentially a strong ally. And let me tell you, we'd soon need those hands, that's for sure.
We're missing resources.
We might have 3 fields set up, but it was just simply not enough to keep the barn and the cookhouse in business, leaving us yet still semi-reliant on canned foods. So when those rescued raiders wander back to the zone to hand in their weapons, tired, relieved, and awaiting relaxation, they'll be put straight to work on demolition, this time on the block directly opposite the high-quality housing. Not only would this pave the way for more fields and more food, but further open up the southwest sightlines, giving squads with sharp eyes coverage over 3 out of the 4 directions out of the safe zone. The earlier we could engage the infected, the less of a risk they would pose to us when they came attacking. And despite the fact that we'd need a bulldozer to take down the city block in previous times, those raiders we rescued set to work on that task like it was the last one of their lives. Whether being rescued put the fear of God into them, or whether it was eagerness to show their gratitude, I wasn't going to question their resolve as they picked up their sledgehammers and got started. In the interim though, I ordered the research team to start looking into fertilisation. We're amassing animal dung at an alarming rate, and no way to utilise it. If that could increase the crop yield, it'd be a good band-aid fix for now. And with morale in the zone climbing, the citizens weren't just content, but satisfied. Satisfied that life really wasn't as bad as it seemed. That life perhaps one day wouldn't be fragile. At least, I'm sure they did, until they heard this.
Swarm incoming! Get ready!
With the restless screaming of another horde piercing the skyline of Mogadishu, it was becoming a reality that the citizens would simply have to learn to accept. That combat with the infected on a regular basis was going to be a fact and part of life, as much as eating breakfast or working the field. I can't say either myself, the citizens, or the soldiers particularly liked it, but for as long as we breathed, the zone would stay standing and ready to help anyone who needed saving. For the 3rd time, we lock, load, and stare into the darkness, waiting for the darkness to stare back.
Infected incoming! Operator, we're on the move. Hostiles inbound!
Oh, shit. There are some bad cattle here. These things seem unnaturally agitated and wander around just like the infected. We should take the bird down before it gets to the zone.
We'll take them down. Await my orders.
On my way. On my way.
The door won't hold much longer. The door won't hold much longer.
Another 50 corpses scattered the streets to pose an unwelcome sight to the citizens emerging. We might not be out of bullets yet, but we are nearly out of graves already. They might not be getting through the door now, but that didn't stop me from prioritising our security even further, especially with that mad cattle charging around. In the wake of these attacks, I ordered them to start reinforcing our new apartments and housing with brick infill and top it off with white and black paint. Our citizens are our lifeblood. Even if our brave soldiers fall in a blaze of glory, We want them to give every possible chance to survive, and making the houses almost impenetrable would be a strong start.
To all survivors, the infection is in decline. Seek others and rebuild.
It doesn't seem like they can hear us. Maybe they're not listening at all. If we want to get to the source of that transmission, we'll have to go beyond our closest neighborhood.
Okay, we should consider sending our squads to neighboring areas.
That broadcast gives me mixed feelings. While I'm happy to hear that voice again, it hasn't played back for nearly 18 months by this point. It's a carbon copy repeat of what it was back then as well. So, why now? Why was it now looping back so long after we first emerged back into the world? I wondered if the man who recorded the message was even still alive after all this time. But regardless of how much I tried to track it down, there was just simply no way to trace its origin. It appeared to originate far beyond the region we're operating from. Just one more problem to have to worry about, with the squads getting restless and wanting to venture further into the world. Something I would have to address as well.
How many of you are there? Please, come to us. We'll take you in. Where are you? You have to come on your own. And be careful. We're waiting for you.
Another 8 possible citizens would give us even more sledgehammers, more researchers, more farmers, and possibly, even more critically, more soldiers. After all, I just had the small bungalow opposite the living quarters converted into a soldier's barracks. Not only could that help to expand our fighting strength, but it would give our soldiers a dedicated space to rest with their squad mates, to bond, to build that camaraderie, and keep themselves well rested and well groomed. If our soldiers can't fight optimally, then what chance did we have against raiders and the infected? Without their strength and courage, we'd have been lost to these things many moons ago. That I know.
Ready for action.
And right now, I had another job for them. While our food supply remained relatively healthy, with 80 crates in tow, but this was enough for a fair while, I'll give you that. But starvation was a problem I would rather not be forced to deal with, at least not while it's within my power. If anyone in our zone was going to meet an untimely end, I'd want it to be a heroic one, full of bullets, glory, and desperate defence. Not an end that's entirely avoidable, one that I could prevent with even a modest amount of forward planning. And with that, I order those squads on a scavenging run. Additionally, a full moon emboldened me to make another further risk, sending all 20 of my fighters out at once to find food. Leaving base unguarded is definitely a gamble, but with radio contact now consistent, our civilian housing now fortified to comparable levels to a small fortress, I was confident this was a calculated risk. But my finger remained on the recall button most of the night, just in case. While bags are filled, the incoming survivors use the glow of the full moon to pass unimpeded by the infected around the zone, further bolstering our numbers. They weren't the first, and they certainly wouldn't be the last group who I immediately order to start demolition efforts at sunrise. That city block needed to go, not just for the sake of our guns and defence, but for our very survival.
This is Chief Operator of the 6th Zone. We're under attack. I repeat, we're under attack.
State your location.
Defenses are being destroyed, and we cannot hold them off much longer. This is the moment that we need some help.
We're losing you.
We're preparing for this moment. We knew this was going to happen. Now we're ready more than ever to
Sir,
leave that now to our people, and that moment will define us forever. If anyone can hear us, please, we need you.
we can send help.
We're on our own, but we're strong. Our hearts go out to the brave ones taking a stand against the infected.
The place is adapted.
Sir, the signal is very weak, but it must be originating from some location nearby. If we search the nearby areas by checking the signal strength, we might find its origin.
Okay.
On my way.
Another safe zone, close by, in the area. But I'd heard no gunfire, no disturbance to suggest its existence. The voice on the radio sounded panicked, like a last stand, a blaze of glory, marking the end of an era. Nobody uses language like that unless they'd already accepted death. But over the last days and weeks, there had been no such thing. A few exchanged shots between opposing raiders, maybe the odd survivor or two shooting down an infected in the street, maybe raiders tussling for the stash of a survivor. Sure, but something about that broadcast just didn't sit right with me. But I am naturally duty-bound to investigate and help where I can, and as if on cue, it's like the city answered my thoughts.
Sir, we've encountered a group of people. They claim to have some technical and scientific knowledge.
Ask them to join us.
Now, if anybody could help track down a signal like this one, it would be a group of scientists who I eagerly accept. Now, while Somalia might not be globally renowned for technological and scientific inventions, at least within the 21st century, the country has played a pivotal role in shaping what has become a truly iconic symbol of modern irregular warfare, the Technical. These are typically civilian pickup trucks, retrofitted with a heavy weapon, such as a machine gun, mounted to the back. During the Somali Civil War of the 1990s, aid organisations and foreign NGOs were not legally permitted to hire private security contractors to protect their personnel, so they turned to the local Somalis for protection. The cost of these services would be referred to as technical assistance when accounting for them on the books. This made the term technical become a common reference to both the fighters themselves and the weaponised vehicles they brought with them. Now, the idea of mobile warfare, mind you, isn't a new concept. The Russians, for instance, fielded similar weapons in the First World War in the form of a tachanka, a horse-drawn machine gun mount brought in for heavier firepower. In many ways, the idea of the modern technical revived this very concept in the modern age and adapted it for decentralised and asymmetrical warfare rather than that of a frontline regular army. In a nation which has shown remarkable resilience in the face of instability and evolving conflict, this innovation and an ability to adapt is a testament to the resourcefulness of the Somali people, making the most of limited resources, in this case transforming what would otherwise be a simple pickup truck into a global symbol of mobile warfare, resistance and deterrence. None of our current vehicles have this firepower, but I couldn't help but hope that some of that Somali ingenuity had survived into the new world. Heaven knows I want to use it against the infected.
Hello? Does anybody hear me?
I hear you. This is the infection-free zone.
Thank God. I've lost all hope. I need help. I'm sick.
help do you need?
I need...
Okay. I'll send a squad to you as soon as I can.
Many thanks. You're a lifesaver.
Please, state your location.
I'm staying at...
I have every sympathy for this man, and it made me smile, if just a little bit, knowing we could give him hope in what may very well be his darkest hour. While I couldn't send a technical to go and rescue him, I make sure to dispatch a squad with a car to give him a comfortable ride to the zone so that we can treat him and give him the care he clearly needs. We'll make sure that anyone who enters this zone is taken care of, no matter who they are. They deserve that chance.
Sir, we reached the survivor. It was too late for him. He attacked us just as we entered the room.
That's too bad. Thanks for the report.
And just like that, I was reminded that no matter how carefully we plan and how much firepower we bring, the grim reality is we just can't simply save everyone. I could beat myself up over how long we took, whether he'd gotten through to us a moment earlier, but what good would that do? In a more peaceful world, we'd have afforded him a funeral, a dignified burial and end. The poor man sounded like he'd survived a long time, like he'd made it through hell. But this isn't a peaceful world. It's one we have to survive with methods, with caution and heavy hearts. With a regretful feeling in my stomach, I instruct the squad to return to base and leave the poor soul there. But on their way back, they'd call me again with something else.
Sir, we found some trails. Looks like a few cars passed through here recently. But what's more curious, one of the vehicles must have had tracks instead of tires. Maybe it was some kind of bulldozer or a tank, maybe. Roger.
Roger that. Be careful.
Going there.
Now that put my teeth on edge, arguably more than the idea of the infected. When it boiled down to it, the infected were mindless, brash, predictable, though even then I'm not fully sure about that last one. The thought that a crazed military unit was driving around the city with automatic weapons, guerrilla tactics of old, stealth and subterfuge, that was terrifying. We could deal with a few hundred infected, but 20 tons of steel, explosives, asymmetric warfare? That's not a horde or survival. That's a war. One that we're not equipped to fight.
Going there. Port, spotted!
We're missing resources.
Grab your guns! The infected are swarming!
And there it was again, yet another roar of a bloodthirsty swarm, the fourth to date. On paper, it too disturbed me, but I knew it was close to sunrise, which at least gave me the luxury of some thinking time. Perhaps even the time we needed to level the last of that city block and open the sightline. I admit that I was becoming more emboldened by recent successful defences, but I had to make sure I make a conscious effort not to become complacent, not when the lives of our citizens are firmly in my hands. For now, though, it seems the infected have taken a liking to the new barn, perhaps for the livestock it kept. It was a strange order, admittedly, requesting it to be brick reinforced and painted ahead of arguably more important buildings, but our food supply is critical infrastructure. I can't risk that. And speaking of bricks, in our citizens' haste to demolish the block, I noticed a large amount of debris and rubble scattered across the plot. As with anything, they don't always do the job cleanly, and from time to time adult supervision is required. I promptly reminded them to clear the last of it out. Finishing this off is the final step towards shoring up our food supply after all. The looping message confirmed it, but was it the result of sloppiness, or could this be the work of yet another bad actor in the neighbourhood? Somebody willing to lure those with a moral compass like ourselves into a trap, perhaps? While I wished I didn't have to ask these questions, I reluctantly decided to dispatch a squad to investigate and order them to keep their weapons close and their squad mates closer.
People is approaching. We found a new car!
Sir, the signal is slightly stronger over here. If we search the nearby buildings, we might find the source of the transmission.
Understood.
Let's do
Watch
it.
yourself.
Hostiles outbound!
Board inside!
Sir, we found where the transmission came from. This must have been one of the safe zones. It seems it fell years ago, but the equipment somehow survived and kept transmitting. It's powered by solar panels that were occasionally catching some light. Maybe we could try to use solar energy too.
All right. Let's try.
Not working.
I confess, I was not prepared for the cause of the broadcast to simply be a case of negligence and happenstance. My heart naturally went out to the poor souls who were in that zone when it went down, but I find myself becoming more and more uneasy about the discovery the more I think about it. What if those survivors weren't shooting back at the infected? What if those that the operator was making an impassioned speech about weren't infected at all, but human? Perhaps, just perhaps, what if those who stormed the zone and massacred everyone within it were the very same people with the treaded vehicle? Had a rogue military firepower unit caused their deaths? An uncooperative civilian population and an army once bound by a code of honour and a duty to country, now free to strong-arm and kill for what they felt was theirs? The thought didn't really bear thinking about, but it was a nagging notion. What if we were next? But for now I had more immediate problems.
Ready for action. On my way. There are some infected around here. Roger. We're on the move. We're on the move. Another one incoming! Roger. Going there. On my way. On my way.
Trying to get inside.
Roger.
As the night had fallen, the dormant swarm had seen their opportunity, and with the entire northern block now warehouses, one brave squad rushed out into the street to draw the infected away. They greatly exposed themselves to danger just to protect our supplies, a brazen and daring move, and one that paid off greatly. We owe them for this one, no doubt, but the last of them weren't finished yet.
Roger. Let's do it. On my way. Reporting. Ready for action. Going there.
And with that final set of stragglers dead, the soldiers would have another set of bodies to bury. I advised that whatever graves they needed to dig after this latest onslaught, I advised that they dig them deep. But, critically, again, they had not managed to contaminate our precious farmland. This was as good as an outcome as we could possibly have hoped for. But it will be yet another abhorrent sight to witness for the unlucky citizens who would emerge in the morning. And come sunrise, a new problem was beginning to form, aside from the streets still wet with blood from slain infected and heavy with the stench of death. where our numbers had grown and new people accepted to the zone. Some civilians were finding themselves without a roof over their heads, forced to sleep in hallways, storage rooms and sheds. This was a problem that needed to be nipped in the bud immediately, as quickly as the food problem. I earmarked 2 small properties, a little bungalow and a small house, for high quality homes. A survey of the currently derelict shells told me that we could comfortably fit 5 civilians in the former and 11 in the latter. That'd be enough housing stock to ensure shelter for all, and I pushed this as a priority. A bed, safety, and security should be a standard thing for anyone we welcome. After all, nobody should be sleeping outside. And finally, at long last, the otherwise sloppy citizens levelling the city block opposite the shelters finished the job, picking up the final bricks with a relieved sigh of finality. They have achieved in very good timing what would otherwise have required a bulldozer and a set of demolition charges just a few years ago. With the final bricks being unloaded into storage, it gives me great happiness to have the new patch of levelled soil tilled and marked out for 3 new fields of much needed prime farmland. This effectively doubles our food capabilities and output and sets us up better to deal with the perils to come.
Somebody's coming.
Perils, I might add, which you will learn much more about in the next chapter of Mogadishu, Somalia. I'd like to thank you for tuning into this episode, and to remind you to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and like the video if you have indeed made it this far. Believe me, I appreciate you more than you know. Stay tuned for Chapter 3.